Welcome back. This week's video corresponds to the basic concepts of geometry. In this class, we're going to talk about points, lines, and planes, which are also known as the undefined terms of geometry. Why are they called undefined terms? Because it's very difficult or very improbable that you can define them using, for example, a ruler or measuring the dimensions that they have. Especially the first concepts that we have in here. For example, a point is a dot or a period that has no dimension at all. So it is very difficult to identify a dot. Basically, what we usually do is we draw a circle like this, we fill it up, okay, and we identify it with a letter that is usually a capital letter. So this will be the representation of a dot. Okay. The second undefined term is the one that we call line. Line is a straight, graphing that extends in one dimension. When we talk about one dimension, it means this. And we're going to represent it always by a straight line. So we're going to have a straight line with the characteristic that it has two arrows, okay, on the extremes. We usually identify the line as, the line that is passing through two given points. Therefore, we usually give names that are based on the points by which the line is passing. For example, this one will receive the name of line MN. We can also call it, in geometry, this is what represents line MN. Okay. Or if there is another letter, a small case letter, like letter K, then we also can call it line K. These are three ways to represent that straight line that we have in there. The other concept that we can have is the concept of plane. Okay, we usually understand plane by a surface, okay, that has two dimensions. Therefore, that's why it is a figure that extends in two dimensions. It extends infinitely. But for geometrical concepts in here, we're going to always represent it with a flat surface that has borders. Something like this. And in here we have what is called a plane. We can identify a plane in different ways. If we know points that belong to the plane, then we can call this D, E, and F. So this can be called plane D, E, F, or the variations that we can do with the letters E, D, F, FED, FDE, as many as we want. But we can also call it, if we have a letter, a specific letter right here in the corner, indicating the name of the plane, then this will also receive the name of plane Q. Now, with these three undefined terms, we can create a whole lot of concepts in geometry, especially two very important concepts are these ones that we have in here. The concept of collinear, which means points that lie on the same line. Taking advantage of the drawing that we already have in here, for example, we're going to use these figures, the two figures that I have in here. I'm going to have MN, line MN, okay, and point A also. Look at this, collinear points, points that lie on the same line. So in this case, M and N are collinear, according to the definition. Now, if we take M, N, and A, are not collinear. So in here we have two concepts, very important. What is collinear? That belongs to the same line. What is not collinear or non-collinear, okay, is what, for example, these two M and N that belong to the line, but A that is outside the line. So that makes it automatically non-collinear. So here we have these two concepts, okay. Now let's analyze the concept of coplanar. Right? The concept of coplanar involves the following. Right? Let's draw a plane, okay, that contains several points. So in here we have this plane. Let's name the plane letter C, okay? And in here, let's put another point right here outside the plane, okay? So, to explain the concept of coplanar means points that lie on the same plane. In this case, the points that are in the plane are A, B, and C. Therefore, we can say that A, B, and C are coplanar. Now, if we talk about the 4 points that I have in here, A, B, C, and D, automatically C makes the set of values that we have in here non-coplanar. So this is how to explain the concepts of point, line, plane, collinear, and coplanar. Okay? We can also say the following things. Okay? For example, I can say I can have this figure. I can also say line AB is on plane Z. But for example, if I have a line that goes like this, passes through C, and then moves on D, in that case, the line is only intersecting. Okay? So in this case, it will be line CD intersects plane C at point C. What are we talking about? The line CD that is crossing in here is like a pencil cutting through a paper. Line CD is intersecting plane C, and the intersection is given at point C. So in here we have the explanation of certain undefined terms, which are the basis of what we know as modern geometry. I hope that you understood this section. We'll be back for another example. With this example, we want to analyze the different concepts that we learned previously. For example, look at the figure on the right. What we're going to do is identify certain elements that we can see that are explicit over there in that graphic. For example, they tell me in exercise number 1, name 3 points that are collinear. In this case, what we're going to do is identify all the collinear points that we have in that drawing. So basically, we're going to go like this. Collinear. Let's remember the concept of collinear. They belong to the same line. And if they belong to the same line, then I can see that C, H, and D, they are on the same line. So C, H, and D will be one answer. I can also see clearly that A, H, and B are also on the same line. So I can identify A, H, and B. And finally, we can also identify the following exercise. If you see, this is a line that is crossing the plane, right? The line GF. So in here, we have 3 points that are also collinear because they belong to the same line. Even though these ones are dashed, dash means that they are covered by the plane and we cannot see this part of the line. But if you analyze this line, then we have 3 collinear points that are forming it, which are G, K, and F. So, once we identify all the possible collinear points, let's go to the next example. They tell me to identify to name 3 coplanar points. Now, let's remember the concept. Coplanar means points that are on the same plane. So, here we can have different sets of coplanar points. So, let's go one by one. Or let's take an order. A, B, and C are part of the plane. We can also have B, C, and A, or B, D, and A. B, D, and point A. I can also talk about A, H, and B. We can also talk about C, H, and D, which are on the same line. Also, we can talk about A, K, and D. And many more combinations that you can see with the condition that they belong to the plane. Now, if we can identify them clearly, well, here we have different sets. This answer can be very long as the number of points that we have in there. Now, let's name 2 lines. 2 lines that are part of the plane, or that you can see in that drawing, okay? Physically, we can see 3 lines. This one, and this one. So, let's give them names. If you want to go by the names of the extremes, then this one will be line GF. But somebody can be looking from this point of view. So we can also give it the name FG. We also have line A and B. Line A and B. And on the contrary, line B and A. The third line that we have in here, this one, that will be line C, D, and also line DC. But also, if you see, we can also identify lines by the lowercase letters. So in here we can have also line I, and also line N. There we have the sets of lines that belong to that plane, or that are part of that drawing that we have in there. Finally, we are going to name the plane. The plane can be named, remember, by the physical points that we see inside of them, or by a capital letter that is in one of the corners of the drawing. So in this case, we can write in here plane P, which will be the direct name, but we can also call it plane ABC if you want it. I can also call it plane OHK, and many more names that we can use or that we can combine from these elements that we have in here. The only elements that we cannot put on the name of a plane are the names of the lines that are in lowercase. For example, if I say plane N, that will be a mistake. Or if I use plane I, also that will be a mistake. And so you have to be very clear with that situation. Now we're going to complete this exercise with 3 other examples that we are going to be doing. The idea is that you have very complete your knowledge about the undefined terms. The other situations are name two opposite rays. Now the concept of ray is very important. We are also going to name a point not in the plane. And finally, we will be naming 2 rays whose origin is point H. So as you can see in here, we're going to be completing some of the undefined terms. Now, 2 opposite rays. What do we mean by rays? Ray is a figure that goes like this, has an origin in this point, and extends into one direction, passing through another point. And we name it from the origin to the extreme where the arrow is passing. So according to this, 2 opposite rays can be, for example, H, A, and look at the arrow on the origin and where the line is passing is opposite to, so in this case, the arrow that goes in the opposite direction, which will be H, B. But as we can see here in the same drawing, we also have another pair of opposite rays. We also have ray HC, which is opposite to ray HD. Remember, starting from H and going through C, starting on H and going through D. These are opposite rays. Now, a point not in the plane. In here we have several points that are not in the plane. Let's go by the obvious image that we have, which is letter M. Letter M is identifying a point that is completely outside the plane. So, M. That will be one of the answers. The other answer can be point F. And finally, according to the drawing, the other value is letter G. So here we have 3 points that are not on the plane. And finally, let's name 2 rays whose origin is located in point H. So that means I can go from here to here, from here to here, like this, okay? Basically here we have 4 rays with origin on H. So again, H, A, H, B, H, C, and H, D. So here we have the concepts of rays, lines, segments, and also points that are not part of a plane. I hope that everything is clearly, that you understood the process. Basically, very important, remember the names, how we name the figures. Okay, I'm just going to make a small review. If we have this, is what we call segment AD. If I have this figure is ray AD, starting on A, passing through D. And if I have this one, then what I have is line AD. I hope that everything is understood with this section. On the next video, we are going to analyze some of the characteristics that belong to lines and angles. Thank you very much.